Hello there people, hopefully you're having a beautiful day. Today we're going to be talking about the lore of Sonic X Shadow Generations White Space and the story of Sonic X Shadow Generations White Space. As pretty much the resident lore expert on this topic, I should be able to answer pretty much any question, and today is pretty much a test for me. I have two YouTubers here today, a guy named The Gaming Rift and another YouTuber. I'll say his name later in the video because obviously I'm one of those people who literally doesn't think about the name of the person unless they are actively being looked at. So yeah, have a great day and hopefully have a good time with the video.
It's pretty clear that there's a lot of development going on with Shadow Generations. However, I have a few issues with the whole returning to anger and revenge storyline, since in Shadow the Hedgehog that plot point had basically been put to bed, as we saw in Sonic 06.
You see, I think the issue with the story of Sonic X Shadow Generations, and pretty much all Sonic stories in general, is the issue of conveyance. Most people don't understand Sonic stories, not because they're hard to understand. You can understand a Sonic story pretty easily, but you have to understand that Sonic stories have conveyance issues, and most people don't actually understand the ending or the beginning. But that isn't actually the issue here. The issue here is that people like the Gaming Rift don't actually understand what's being retconned. So basically, when we're talking about the ending of Shadow the Hedgehog, he gives up on trying to remember his past. At the ending of that game, conveys it as a triumphant moment where Shadow the Hedgehog has gotten past his past permanently, where Sonic X Shadow Generations changes the framing for Shadow to believe that he did not actually get over Maria, but instead what happened is, I can't bear the pain of losing Maria, even if it is fake, and he has decided that I'm just not going to think about it anymore, which solves the retcon of Sonic 06, and it displays why Shadow isn't working for Gun currently, because he just ultimately wasn't able to get past the fact that he isn't doing that. But we're going to get to the Sonic 06 point in a few seconds here.
We saw in Sonic 06, and as a result of this, returning to Shadow's rage years later and years after the events of 06 just seemed really out of place. Remember Shadow in Sonic 06, the calm, collected hero who was a sort of mentor figure to the younger, more naive Silver the Hedgehog? The same Shadow the Hedgehog who resisted temptation by Mephiles throughout the entire story, and in the final encounter basically told him to go fuck himself, and then removed the inhibitor rings and destroyed most of his army. Oh, and the same Shadow the Hedgehog who willingly worked for Gun, the same organization that killed Gerald and Maria. If Shadow's anger was still prevalent, then why the hell would he willingly work for the organization that ruined his life?
Alright, let's be very clear here. The manipulation that Mephiles can do has no way, shape, or form of comparing to the type of manipulation that Black Doom can do. Black Doom literally has a hive mind connecting to Shadow that Shadow cannot see back in through. So basically, if Shadow wanted to go into Black Doom's mind, he couldn't, but if Black Doom wanted to go into Shadow's mind, he could, and he does multiple times throughout both the games he appears in. So it's going to be way easier for Shadow to look at Mephiles and go oh, you're not shit, you're not anything to me. I've already dealt with a guy literally going inside of my head and changing how I look at the world. Okay, you should be able to very reasonably and very quickly understand that Black Doom and Mephiles are on different tiers of mind manipulation. And if he could deal with Black Doom, he could definitely deal with a person who's literally just talking shit. I'm pretty sure that's an easy thing to get through your head. It would actually be a problem if Shadow actually was tempted by Mephiles, because Black Doom gave him a harder task to overcome, and he overcame that. Yeah, Mephiles was more of a physical task to Shadow than a mental one, and the issue with Shadow even going through that story arc at all is the simple fact of, oh, you can't tempt Shadow's anger, when that's not really the case. Most of Shadow's anger is connected to his past, while Mephiles was trying to get into him based on what humans would do to him in the future. And, like, for all intensive purposes, that would not work, okay? Like, if it's not connected to Maria, it's not going to work at all. I'm gonna make this very clear. I'm gonna be very, very directly honest with you when I say this. Shadow the Hedgehog probably is only working for Gun because Abraham Towers, a person also traumatized by Maria's death, is working for Gun. That makes the most sense to me. If it doesn't to you, I completely understand. But Abraham Towers and Shadow the Hedgehog are pretty much on the same wavelength where they're like, okay, this can't happen anymore. You can't have Gun going around murdering children and the most innocent of scientists who work with Space Satan. Maybe you can have them murder people who work with Space Satan, but murdering the little girl was a bridge too far. And I'm pretty sure, unless we want to like character assassinate Abraham Towers, you would make it to where Abraham Towers just doesn't let Gun murder anybody. Now, the fact that Eggman dismantles it by the time of Sonic Forces is a tragedy all by itself, but holy shit, it is a tragedy that they dismantled Gun, which is crazy. It's fucking insane. Now, they're going to forget that. They're definitely going to forget that if they decide to bring Gun back. But it's crazy that Eggman just dismantles Gun in the 6 months between Sonic Forces, like the beginning point of Sonic Forces, and when they break out Sonic, they just break down that entire thing. But that's a story for a different time. Okay, let's continue with the video.
It's pretty obvious that Shadow by that point in the lore had moved past his anger, so years after Sonic 06, returning to his anger just felt weirdly out of place, especially since both Sonic and Shadow Generations confirm that just because the events of Sonic 06 were not remembered by anyone, that doesn't mean that they didn't exist and they didn't happen. Mephiles is literally proof of this.
I'm going to make this the Cliff Notes and explain it very, very, very much in more detail if I really need to, but I don't think I will need to because I think this is a pretty good explanation. So basically, white space does not confirm the timeline. It doesn't confirm anything about the timeline, and in fact, it doesn't even confirm the order of the events in the timeline, as stupid as that fucking sounds. What it does is represent itself as a painting. So things from multiple timelines, multiple futures, and multiple pasts can bleed into white space. And actually, it's a fundamental plot hole that there are no unique levels in Sonic X Shadow Generations. That is a fundamental plot hole that like Sega doesn't have to really clarify, because we should be able to expect that and understand that as a principle, that you're not going to be making like 90 unique levels for a celebration of the series or a celebration of other parts of the series. It's a fundamental misunderstanding that some people come to, but it makes sense why like Sonic Team isn't like putting 30 unique levels of different timelines and stuff all over the stratosphere when it comes to this game. But what that also does is make people think that things like this are happening, where the characters are just not remembering Sonic 06, where fundamentally it was removed from the timeline and Sonic Generations brought it back because it's a alternate timeline where the events of Sonic 06 were never erased and they went forward from there. And in fact, my headcanon is that they brought the Archie version of Sonic 06 in and just said, fuck it, let's do it like that. Okay, so I'm just gonna dumb it down real quick because I understand that that's a long-winded response. Basically, the events of Sonic 06 still didn't happen. The ending of Sonic 06 proves that, but also you have to remember that white space is a painting, and multiple futures, multiple past, alternate realities, and everything in between bleed into it. So that's like pretty much the Cliff Notes version, if you didn't follow along from what I'm saying.
Meaning that whilst, yes, Shadow would have no recollection of the events of 06, that doesn't mean that he was long past his anger anyways. Make no mistake, I think the story in this game, whilst being underdeveloped, was definitely better than Sonic Generations.
Yeah, like, the Gaming Rift isn't like a bad commentator or anything. He's just fundamentally misunderstands, one, what white space is, and two, what was being retconned. That's all he really missed, but let's go to another video so I can further explain the painting aspect of white space. So, I was looking for the video so I can download it and stuff so I can actually like look at it, and not pre-downloading the video made me lose it. If I find the video, I'll just make another video, because that stuff will be like literally a 10-minute response video just like this one was. But for now, I will see you guys later. Have a great day.
Sleepy, happy, grumpy, bashful, and Tyrone. I never save a black bitch's number in my phone. It's the Mambo King, Xavier Cougat. Call me Mario, nigga, cause I'm wearing my coon hat. Some of my best friends are black, but they say I'm fucking racist, 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 racist. Homie, I ain't the one who put your ass on a slave ship, slave ship, slave ship.